How's it going, Bruins fans? Welcome into another episode of the UCLA Insider Podcast. On Sports Illustrated, I'm your host, Tom Cavanaugh, and today is Thursday, November 14th, 2024, and we are prepping you for this Friday night matchup on the road for the UCLA Bruins football team. They're going up against the Washington Huskies. Bruins at 4-5 on a 3-game win streak, facing the Huskies at 5-5, losers of 3 of their last 4 games. Two different teams coming from opposite sides when it comes to the momentum standpoint. Today, we're going to break down the defensive side of the football for the Huskies and then look at a few keys to victory to help the Bruins earn their 4th straight and pull them just 1 game away from becoming bowl eligible and a complete tide turn of this entire season. First, I want to give a shout out to Fans First Sports Network for letting us bring you all of the content daily. You can follow myself, Tom Cavanaugh, at TCav30 on Twitter /X. And then if you want to follow our insider page, go to Twitter or Facebook at UCLA Insider on SI. And then if you just want it straight from the source, go into your search bar, type in UCLA Bruins on SI, and you'll be able to find all of our stories from all of our fantastic writers. So first, we'll start with the defensive side of the ball for the Washington Huskies under first-year head coach Jedd Fisch. That's a nice storyline that we'll talk about after the game between Fisch and Foster, the two respective head coaches. First, we got to talk about what the Huskies can do preventing points. Now, they're sort of like the Hawkeyes were last week on offense, but defensively. So when you look at the numbers in Big Ten play specifically, the Huskies are the number 1 pass defense. They're averaging 149.8 yards per game through the air. That is the best total from any Big Ten team, including teams like Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana. They're number 1. The Huskies play great pass coverage, and you can tell that they do that because they only have 14 sacks this year. They're not creating a ton of quarterback pressure this season, but their corners and their safeties are locked down. So it's going to be on Ethan Garbers to really try to pinpoint, have time in the pocket, and find open receivers. He's going to have several options. Big name Logan Loya, the senior. He had a season-high day last week for over 90 yards on several receptions. So those two going to link up in the pass game. Maliki Matavo right now questionable to play in this game. He was dealing with an injury, was out last week against Iowa. He would be a big addition back to the team for the Bruins. But then you talk about the other side of this Huskies defense, much like the Hawkeyes were running the football number 1 and dead last in passing the football. This Washington team does not stop the run very well. They're 3rd worst in the entire conference in rush yards per game allowed, a little over 160 per game at 162.3. It bodes well for TJ Harden, Jalen Berger, and Keegan Jones, the triple back set for the Bruins. Now, they're coming off their best game of the year against the Hawkeyes, a defense in Iowa that was very stout, had success stopping the run this year. They did not do that at all against the Bruins. I mean, TJ Harden had his season-high 125 yards on 20 carries. Berger chipped in a little bit as well, so did Jones. And if those guys can get going again and get to the average number of about 160, 175 yards against this Huskies defense, they're going to be all right. You saw TJ, he hadn't had a game all year over 55 yards. He went off doubling that total and some with 125. He's going to be the guy to watch out for to open up this Bruins offense because it's still currently UCLA, it's going to be hard for them to get out of this spot, but they're the worst statistically in running the football in the conference. They're averaging a little over 89 yards a game. Now, that's an uptick of 10 yards from last week when they were at 79, but still the only team in the conference to average under 100 yards on the ground. So having another week, continuing to blossom this run game is going to be huge for the Bruins because they're playing a team that does not succeed when teams put it on the ground and run the football. So if Harden's able to come through big, you got Jalen Berger, Keegan Jones. If those guys all can play well and combine for about 160 to 200 yards, that's going to open up the game for Ethan Garbers. Defense is going to close in, fill up the box, trying to stop the run, and that'll leave corners and safeties kind of on islands for Garbers to pinpoint, find accurate throws to several receivers. You take a look at a few of these Husky players that are leading the team in certain categories. One guy to watch out for is sophomore pass rusher Isaiah Ward. He leads the team with 3 sacks, which isn't a high total, but still, I mean, he's the one that gets to the quarterback. Not sure if he's going to come off the right or left side against Garbers, whether it's blindside or facing him. I would expect him to be the blindside guy on the left. But Ward is going to be one man to watch out for when it comes to rushing the passer. Overall, the best player on the defense is senior linebacker Carson Bruner. Very much like the Bruins have several stout, very good linebackers that are in their junior and senior seasons, much like Carson Schwessinger. So a couple of Carsons on either side in the linebacker game that are going to play well. Bruner for the Huskies, he leads the team in solo tackles with 41, total tackles at 78, and he also leads the team in interceptions with 3 of them. He's a pass coverage linebacker, doesn't have a sack this year, so he's not rushing the quarterback all that much in blitzing, but they drop him back into coverage in the middle of that defense, look for the slant route, and he's there to seek it out and pick it off. So we got to watch out for Carson Bruner for the Huskies. He's going to be the guy in the middle of the field, an open field tackler as well. Whenever Harden and the rest of the run game breaks out to that second level, he's going to be there. So we'll switch it over now to 3 keys to the game for the Bruins to get a win on the road in Seattle, facing a Husky team that is 5-1 at home this year. Their only loss was to Washington State back in week 3 of the season. That was a close one. Other than that, the Huskies have won every game at home in the Big Ten, and they've found success there. It's a ruckus environment, one of the better atmospheres in the Big Ten. I mean, how many more can you add, considering marquee college football breeds from either the SEC or the Big Ten when it comes to just all-around atmospheres. But, I mean, we kind of touched on it just a moment ago. The number one priority for this Bruins team is going to be the run game staying consistent. Already mentioned the stats on Harden popping off for $125 last week. He needs to do that once again against the third lowest averaging pass defense or rush defense rather in the Huskies. We'll keep that one short and sweet and move on to the next 2. Achieving quarterback pressure is going to be another big key for the Bruins defense. Overall this season through 10 games, the Huskies have allowed 23 total sacks. That's about middle of the pack, kind of high though for conference teams in the Big Ten. So if guys like Carson Schwessinger, Oluwafemi Oladeo, Kane Madrano, Jay Toai, several of these guys, if they're able to get to the quarterback, speed up fifth-year quarterback Will Rogers, get him to throw inaccurately and spike some passes into the dirt on second and third down instead of being sacked for a big loss, that'll be a game changer. So this Huskies offensive front has not shown that they can block everybody and anybody in the conference. This will be a great opportunity for the Bruins to be able to get to Rogers and make his life tough. Finally, it's going to be kind of reliant on the right leg of sophomore kicker Mateen Bagani. This is a guy that transferred over from Cal Berkeley last year. He's in his first season as a Bruin, very young in his career, and he showed up in a big way last week. If you go back and listen to our post-game recap from that Hawkeyes win on the UCLA Bruins Insider podcast here on the Fans First Sports Network, I talked about Bagani making a 57-yard field goal to keep his team in the game in the first half. I mean, it was a 10-0 game. Hawkeyes were leading, and then boom, you had a 10-10 game because Bagani nailed a 57-yarder. His career-long, second longest in program history, and he's going to be asked to come up in another big role this week. A big reason for that is because the Bruins are addicted to playing close ball games. They're on a 3-game win streak. Each of those 3 wins have been by 7 points or less. So there is a very, very good chance that Bagani is going to be called upon late in the game in a clutch moment. Maybe not a 57-yarder, but he's going to be asked to come up big for this team in a clutch spot. Head coach Deshaun Foster spoke to the media earlier this week and kind of talked about Bagani and his successes over the last couple of weeks. Overall this season, he's 14 of 17. One of those misses from above 50 yards. It was a second 57-yarder that he tried to kick against the Hawkeyes and missed. But he mentioned that Bagani, he's got a ton of confidence in him. He's seen him kick it from high 50s. He's comfortable with him from about 60 yards. So if there's a chance that the Bruins don't have the best field position to kick a field goal, but it's within 60 yards, don't be surprised if you see the sophomore kicker trot out onto the field. especially if the Bruins are having trouble offensively and they've had a few stalled drives and it's a fourth and long. I think Foster will call upon Pagani to come out there. And because of the close games that they play, it's either going to be a 3-point game, a tie game late, and he's going to have to deliver a big kick, just like he did last week in a 17-17 tie game, kicked the go-ahead field goal with a couple minutes left, and the defense did the rest for the Bruins to earn their third straight win. So when you look at it, this defense for Washington, they're good in some aspects, but struggle in others. They don't find a lot of quarterback pressure. They play great defensive coverage in the secondary, and their run game defense is lacking as well. So it's going to be on the run game for the Bruins to get going and take advantage of that. It's going to be on the quarterback pressure on the Huskies' fifth-year senior, Will Rogers, and then also the sophomore kicker, Mateen Bagani, coming through in a big moment, because I guarantee you he's going to find himself in a clutch spot. This has been the UCLA Bruins Insider Podcast. I want to give another big thank you to Fans First Sports Network. You can follow us and check out all of our content on UCLA Bruins on SI. Type that into your search bar, and you'll find everything that we have to offer to you within Bruins athletics. Fans, we'll see you again tomorrow, prepping again for this Washington Huskies and UCLA Bruins Friday night matchup in the Big Ten. Bruins going for their fourth straight win and third straight on the road. Thanks so much, everybody. We will see you again tomorrow.